as always, it is the most important part of the week. And it's time for the indie of the week. And this week it's a bit weird, bit random, because we've had World Book Day.
Random.
And I was thinking, what could we do for World Book Day? Because books are the most important thing. Not PDFs, they don't count, but books. Lovely papery things. So I started having a wee nosy around and came across a couple of bits and pieces that I want to draw people's attention to. And the first is from a little indie company who've released their very first Dungeons and Dragons adventure. This comes from NASA. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Yes, the people who fire rockets into space, NASA, have released a D&D adventure.
Oh my God, I didn't. What?
This is a real D&D adventure. It's not pissed. It's not like the Wendy's the Wendy's RPG thing. It is all about the city of Aldastron on Ixlaris.
Aren't they missing a trick here? Why don't they talk about the secret alien moon base?
Because they don't want you to know about that. This is to distract people from that. So you are playing little adventurers who are actually NASA scientists.
There's no trees on the moon?
In an alternate Earth reality.
Oh.
I'm not going to go too much into it because it will spoil it for players.
Is this like when the shuttle comes back and the whole ground crew have agreed to just dress up as apes? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, that type of thing. You and your friends, you all start off as NASA scientists somewhere in one of the NASA buildings, and then you wake up in this world.
Cool.
And
someone at NASA works at NASA, but they really just wanted to work on Star Trek, didn't they?
that type of thing. But it does a couple of interesting things. One, anytime, I just love the fact that NASA logo's up there.
Yeah.
Anytime you're trying to introduce players to a new world that they don't really know much about, there's an awful lot of, I'm a 45-year-old barbarian. I've been plying my trade as a mercenary around this world for, decades. And then you're going, would there be cats in this world? You go, well, obviously you would know if there are cats. That whole, the disconnect between what you know as a player and what your character should know is always massive. This one's really easy because you wake up knowing you're from Earth and you've all landed here and you're now inhabiting a different world and possibly a different body. So you're learning about the world as you play.
Very cool.
So it introduces that quite nicely.
What about the creatures? Are they specifying what sort of creatures are in this world?
They specify bits and pieces, yeah. It's for, 4 to 7 people playing levels 7 to 10. Yeah. Won't go into all of it.
So have you gone on a space mission and come back to an alternative world?
No. You're on campus.
Right.
You all collapse, black out, and when you wake up, you're there. And it's not a punchy fighty adventure. It's an adventure where it's problem solving, puzzle solving, but also at the same time educational a little bit. There's a lot of stuff about space exploration and about the Hubble telescope and how they interact with various things. You say if I'd scroll far enough through, well, if I scroll far through, people could just start reading all the adventure. There's pictures from Hubble and stuff.
I need to know something.
Yes,
I want to know. I need to know how many Easter eggs they've put into it, because the player count to me sounds like the minimum and maximum amount of people they can put on the ISS.
I'm not saying anything at all.
Probably
about.
This seems like the perfect thing to do when you are in space.
I'm still confused.
Yeah,
are there creatures then, or is it just humans?
There might be creatures. It's entirely up to you.
It's for you to find out.
If I was writing this, you'd have all fallen asleep and working up in a world dominated by Elmos. A bit like Rimmerworld, but with Elmos, and you had to destroy all the Elmos to take the world back and really trigger Will Wheaton in the process. It'd be amazing.
Yeah. I mean, that's 100%. I will say a lot of the NPCs you bump into are standard Dungeons and Dragons NPCs. So humans, orcs, half-orcs, dragonkind, all of that. So you're a human waking up in a fun... You're like the kids from Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, the cartoon.
You know,
and John's our dungeon master, Tiny John.
Yeah, and then occasionally you get things like this where they're just going, "Here's a picture of dark matter." That's a handout, by the way.
What? You can't have a picture of dark matter. That's the point.
Oh,
it's dark.
Oh, it's great. No, it's all sparkling stuff. It even says up there, dark matter.
It should say dark matter, maybe.
So these are all
is dark matter.
These are all the handouts that you're going to be giving people during it. So yeah, I just thought that was really neat.
I'm confused. Why do you need pictures from the Hubble Space Telescope if it's all happening on Earth?
It's part of the mystery, and if I explain it, it ruins the mystery and nobody plays the adventure. So if you are, and this is probably ideal for people who have kids who are interested in science, or you want to get them interested in science, or teachers and stuff who have got a gaming club at school.
That'd be a cool idea.
As a little one shot, which is, like I said, it's not all about stat sticks and how many orcs can you punch in the face before your arms get tired. It's actually problem solving and exploration and a bit of science as well. So,
do they have like a elf version of Elon plotting the demise of NASA?
Plotting the demise of the human race as a whole.
Elfron Mask.
Yes, he is there. And
he is now an NPC in my campaign.
And
he's trying to abduct us all to take us to Mars.
He has to be stopped all.
Whether we want to go or not.
Keeps putting implants in things.
He's trying to devices. He's trying to make horseless carriages out of lemons and copper. You know.
That's 100% him. Some sort of mad gnome.
That's it. Come and ride my spaghetti tube with me. Whee! Off we go.
Oh, his Dungeons and Dragons are just the Hyperloop. Is that what it is?
Yeah, exactly.
He's just got kobolds digging tunnels for days.
I also want to imagine that all the pictures they have of, like, you know, the universe and the sky and everything, it's actually not from the Hubble, it's from the JWST, you know, because it's the higher resolution images, as Lloyd would appreciate, you know.
Well,
better Lloyd shots there.
Yep, better Lloyd shots.
That may actually be part and parcel of that adventure. I'm not saying anything. But,
you see the problem here, Gerry, because you don't show us any of it, our imaginations are running wild.
And that is exactly the whole point of that. So you do you. So that's,
I mean, Lloyd's the one that wants the adventure to be fighting over Will Wheaton's paycheck. So
poor Will Wheaton.
No, I want to be crushing Elmos just to wind him up. Look, Wheaton, I'm crushing an Elmo.
So you have an affinity for Elmos?
Oh, he's freaked out on Twitter about some guy attacking Elmo.
All right. Just wondering if maybe he was part of Elmo's family.
I don't know. Maybe.
Genetic throwback who wasn't, furry. That is Will Wheaton. That's his secret that he's kept hidden all these years.
Very similar bone
Elmo's
structure.
cousin. Yeah. Right. So that's my starter for 10. Go out there, be all that you can be with NASA.
So far. Yeah.
The next thing I want to talk about is
Dark
Age. Oh God, yeah. That's why that was just a little throwaway one. That just exists.
Oh, NASA was just a throwaway one.
NASA was just a throwaway because that's how these things go. But I really want to talk about Dark Age stuff, and we all like Saga, for example. It's good, clean family fun. One of the blogs that I follow, Canister and Grape, has some interesting bits and pieces. And I mentioned this a month or so ago to Ben, and then presumably Ben has forgotten. But
I did.
there's a set of, if you've got...
Hey, Ben, you should cover this. I forgot. I'll do it myself.
I think it was when we were having a chat one day, and I'm going, by the way, this exists, because I know Ben loves the Mordheim.
I do like the Mordheims.
I know he likes his Anglo-Saxonness as well.
I do like that too.
So these are a set of warbands and scenarios designed to allow you to put out essentially a Dark Age Mordheim warband to fight your little fighty wars around the place.
So
you two can be a monastic warband desperately trying to repel borders at Lindisfarne. Let us know how that works out for you guys. What is how you say? You're all dead? Oh, shame.
Skills? Nothing.
Yeah.
I'd be like, I don't think we're going to win this, lads. Perhaps we change sides.
It's like Kingdom of Heaven. Convert to Islam. We can repent later. Just get out alive.
How Italian of you.
Yeah. So they're all just very simple 2-page warband lists for your main sort of factions you can run into, your monks, your Anglo-Saxons, your Vikings, and your villagers. But then I was thinking, obviously this is great for the likes of us with copies of Mordheim. Some people out there don't have Mordheim. It's not been around in a very long time. Very long time. So if you're interested in playing out some of the scenarios like Raiders from Across the Sea or pillaging the monastery or whatever it happens to be, you'll need a copy of the rules.
It really should be called No More Time.
And that is where Broheim comes in.
I do like Broheim.
And this is probably the main sort of kit and caboodle of what you need to be looking at here today. Broheim is all the Mordheim that's fit to print, and some that was never printed, and some that should have been printed. It is literally a repository for everything Mordheim based. So,
Broheim.
I'll very quickly jump to Warbands just to give you their grading system.
Ooh.
So, A1 graded is official. 1B is the stuff that was, unofficial but released through some GW publications,
magazines and things like that.
There's experimental rules. There's reliable rules that have been, done by the community. So whenever they put something up, you can see, how official it is, whether or not it's something that's completely out of left field. That somebody's gone, what would be great? Fishman. We should have a Fishman warband. Ronnie Renton, for example, almost undoubtedly said that out loud many times. and therefore this would be listed as something like for Ronnie Renton's madness. But
what happens if you click a PDF while you're talking?
Well, lots of things, but I don't want to do the you've already seen what a warband looks like. It's just a long list of things. So depending on where you come in from, if it's come from a scan from an official book, it will contain, scanned images. Other pieces are, more just textual. Although they've tried to dress things up here, there, and everywhere. Mm-hmm. But it does mean you can come in and get your hands on the full Wartime rulebook, which in and of itself is very handy for when you need to get the rules so that your Vikings can start smashing monk heads here, there, and everywhere. If you fancy landing in the wash and poking some Anglo-Saxons with sticks, then you're going to have to work out how that goes. So as a repository for all things Wartime, the Broheim site just really is the pinnacle, the key for how you can nip in here and just invest yourself. Obviously, warbands, there are a lot from your generics that came out from the actual game itself, and then you start to get into the
White Dwarf or Town Crier. Yeah.
And it lists where they come from as well.
We only got to grade 2B at the minute.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it's whenever you start to hit the drafts where people have gone, what I really think is interesting? I think we should be doing and some of this might be because they've got the miniatures, or some of this might be because in some cases there are things like, Tillian Thespian Troupe, so a traveling band of Tillian role players, actors, is good. But,
I'm reading that as Drowned Dead, and I'm thinking, who cares how they died?
Yeah, I do. If I was on board that boat, or more importantly, if they were coming for me. But there's parts of the Warhammer world that haven't been explored in 20, 30 odd years, but we all know Araby, Cathay, Nippon, all of those places are on the map. And in some cases, the fact that they are there means that the fan base have actually explored more of the old world through this, and some of the factions and cults that maybe throw away lines in a short story or something that the protagonist runs into very briefly in a novel, and then you're never referred to again. Whereas here you can see they are in great detail explored and expanded upon, and people have carved out their little niche far beyond the idea of a one city world. That Mordheim was essentially just a meteor's crashed into a city in the Empire. It's all gone wrong in there. Here are the people that it's gone wrong for.
Because they went off and explored the Empire in flames, and they did Lustria and all that kind of stuff, didn't they? Which I thought was really cool. I remember using this because the website's basically not changed since I was using this, a decade or more ago. to build up like Bretonian warbands, what was it, the Outlaws of the Forest and things like that, like the Robin Hood style warband and everything. Like when we were diving into our campaigns, we still used the core book mostly, and then we all had to agree by committee that someone could use X or Y. Normally changed decision making after the first game when they just absolutely ruffle stomped everybody, and it was like, no, you're not using Shadow Warriors again, but they're more official than anything. I don't care. They're too good.
They may be official. They weren't balanced.
Oh God, bloody elves!
See, you're coming on my side now. It's good. It's good times.
Don't you just play them with a handicap?
Yeah, not playing with them. Yeah.
Well, I mean, to take all your opponent's dice off him and then smash his army.
Take your toys and go home, please.
Yeah. But this is part and parcel. Even though they list it or they rank it by official, you might find that the warband under 2A is, reliable, created the fan tested stuff. The fans have made and tested it to make sure it's balanced to the official stuff. Is probably better to play with than some of the experimental unofficial stuff that Games Workshop published and went, but this is madness, because there's a lot of fun in there. I mean, the Soldiers of Fortune are all good, clean family fun. Your actual name people, there's Aenor, the Sword of Twilight, the most popular character in the world ever, because they give him away free with White Dwarf. I've still got 3 in my collection. We couldn't get out of the store.
Turned my copy of him into Felix Jaeger because I couldn't buy Jaeger at that point. So yeah,
but even things like Ilya Marquand, who were comic book characters from. Remember when Warhammer Comic existed? Remember that, kids? Warhammer Monthly, it was called. So
I have their comics somewhere. They're great fun.
And then the Black Library made official little things of the Ilya Marquand, the Redeemer, and all sorts of things. So a whole ton of stuff.
Why are we not all just playing Mordheim then? Why have we
some
just
people
stopped?
are weird.
But people stopped. Yeah,
it's like I was just looking up again to remind myself. You only need 15 minis max.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't even say
amazing.
I mean, if you've got 15 minis on the table, then a lot of them haven't got weapons.
Yeah,
or they're dungers like goblins. So yeah, in most cases you're running about with
that's
7 or 8.
That's your max commitment. If you wanted to go there, is 15.
Well, this is why Broheim
still exists.
I mean, if you search for Mordheim rules, you'll find that there are multiple websites that you can find it on. Broheim's the most complete collection, and also contains some interesting other bits and pieces in the ways of things like campaigns that they've spun off, giving you ideas of where you can go and how you can play beyond the city of Mordheim itself.
Is this where Games Workshop will go when they've finished resurrecting the old world?
I imagine this is exactly what will happen at some point.
Well, the old world is set around the period when Mordheim would have been in place. So
yeah, I think it's after Mordheim's got smashed.
It's when the comet has landed, but before Magnus the Pious.
Yeah, before they actually get to reclaim the land and send people in.
Before he burns it to the ground.
The additional rules, and there are some crackers in here, because I didn't bother buying
the saddles one. Oh my god!
Yeah, I didn't buy a lot of the Mordheim magazines. I picked up a couple of them whenever they were sitting around, but things like the Mouth of Madness, anything that's vaguely Cthulhu aligned, just does it for me. You know how much I love the Cthulhu, and so they've added insanity rules, because obviously it's a campaign game where you're tracking your characters and their little minions for long periods of time. And just rather than going, they failed a terror test in this one, which means they ran back, 2d6 inches, or needed 6s to hit, blah, 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 ... Instead, you carry on marking not just the physical wounds they suffer, but the psychological wounds.
Brilliant.
And this right here, if you take nothing else from Mordheim and Broheim, the addition of this alongside the campaign rules to actually track who's suffering, because you might have somebody who's the best fighter in your warband, but he really doesn't want to go into a corridor by himself, or he hates houses, or whatever it happens to be. And you're going, well, at this point, he's slightly more detrimental to my warband. It may be time to retire him. He may be the best fighter out there, but he should really stay back home with a tartan travel blanket on and a big pair of slippers and just tell people about how great it used to be. Because quite frankly, every game I put him in, we lose because he just runs away from combat. So, I mean, that's gorgeous and long may it last. They've also if I go into additional, no, downloads and resources, where are you? Thomas Perninen, the writer of Mordheim, has done some additional bits and pieces with them as well. Stuff that he either wanted to do or thought that he should do. Or it's maybe lurking somewhere else and I'm not going to find it now. Which is always fun, I feel, when I'm looking for something. But he did the likes of a little story about essentially the Daughter of Light. Sigmar sends an avatar down to Mordheim to deal with something, and you get a whole slew off from that. And adds in a Sister of Sigmar character, Joanna Heldenhammer, who's like an absolute ass kicker that you can drop in there. So fact that it's
so weird that Sisters of Sigmar haven't become more of a thing. But
yeah, just the fact that you've got the original rules writer back to actually
out and doing stuff for the community
to add bits and pieces in beyond it. The front page may tell me, but I don't think it will, because they've had the 20th anniversary was 4 years ago, actually, I suppose, because it landed in 2000. So
it landed in that gap that nobody remembers. What was it? What
I
seems to be
2000.
three or four years of my life? They're a blur. Where did they go?
They've all gone away now, and we'll never see them again. Oh, there is new content from Thomas. So added a campaign map. There's the Child of Light.
Ooh, campaign map.
Look at the campaign. Oh my God, it's want with you, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Child of Light, like I say, you get the whole story behind her. You get
so good.
You get the character and the fact that there's invisible ghosts or invisible Sigmar angels following her all the time. And keeping her out of trouble and punching things in the face that might want to hurt her, meaning she's a ridiculously overpowered character. And it does say, this is for one-off games or campaign games, or a special something, a special something you want to do because whenever you're running around with an actual living embodiment of a god trying to sort things out, you probably don't want to be chucking into a regular campaign with all your friends and they're skaven because they're going to walk home and never play the game again. And there's your campaign map, all the places you can visit.
We actually used that for our last Mordheim campaign that we did maybe 3 or 4 years ago. We sat down and used this to map out our games and all our different scenarios and stuff.
Yeah, and not just that. I mean, you can then literally carve off your territory. Where do you strike out from? Where do people need to go if they've kidnapped one of your
you can see why
members and that sort of thing.
People like making Mordheim tables because it's like specified. You can look at that sort of thing and go, I'm going to build this particular bit.
It is literally self-contained. Mordheim only takes place within the walls, so you don't have to worry about what's happening outside because nobody really cares what happens outside. The camps start there and then they walk inside to do all the stuff because this is where all the green stuff lives.
So unlike regular Warhammer, where it's like a huge map and you could be placing it in fields here or there with no real guidance as to what you should be making, you can just look at that map and go, I'm going to make this.
Yeah. And it's a slightly less rundown Ankh-Morpork as well, which is good. So,
possibly have had an influence.
Yeah, may have done. So, for people looking to get started in fantasy skirmish,
it's all
gaming,
still there.
It's all there, and so much more than anybody ever thought, more than I'm sure Thomas or any of the guys who worked on it thought whenever they actually wrote it 25 years ago.
I am of the thought that Joseph McCullough keeps writing Frostgrave supplements because he's trying to get to the level of having as many side things and supplements as Mordheim does.
I mean,
he will not stop until he has matched Broheim's list of content.
Yeah, but the problem is for every one Joe there is out there, the Broheim community is myriad. They are legion, for they are many. But even if you don't want to do the fantasy slant of things, if you just want to do quick campaign games of the Dark Age stuff from Canister and Grape, then you just nip over to Broheim, the rules are there. And then you can pick and choose. So if you want to add in the psychology of the insanity table or whatever, you can pick and choose to your heart's content to make it as in-depth or as light a campaign experience as you want. And when you're playing Mordheim, it's all about the campaign experience, I feel.
You would feel like Uhtred then. Just this small band going around kicking ass.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just doing the Lord's own work and criticizing the Christian God. Isn't that what Uhtred did most of the time? He wasn't really on board with the whole Christian thing. He'd much rather just stay on with
annoying Alfred and infuriating Bjorka. So yes.
And getting called a little shit stain.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I don't know. Do we need to bleep that? I'll wait just in case we decide to.
I wouldn't have thought so.
It was in the BBC show. I think I'm safe to say it.
Yeah.
That is how
this goes out after 9.
No, it doesn't.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't. In America, this goes out after 9.
He was called an arsling, by the way.
Arsling, that's it, not shit stain. Oh, in case we need to beep that again.
Right. So, yes, for World Book Day, our indies are Broheim, Canister and Grape for their Dark Age stuff, and NASA. It's the most famous of all independent D&D writers.
That NASA thing's it's annoying the crap out of me. That NASA.
You can go and read it.
What?
You can go read it yourself and then work out how all the things work. Because I'm not going to tell you.
It's annoying me because someone got paid to sit and look at the moon, and they did that instead. No, I'm still looking at the moon. I'm working on my campaign. I'm going to get my company to publish it.
Maybe they did it while they were in space and had nothing better to do. So
That's true.
Particularly quiet day on the space shuttle.
The shuttle was 20 minutes late to pick them up from ISS.
That's it. Look, America. Look where your tax dollars go.
They're packed with their bags, ready to go home, just waiting on the shuttle and just sitting doodling in the departures lounge.
Astalon. That's definitely how it happened. Yeah.
Right. I think it's time for some news.